Hello, my name is Julie Gunkelman. I teach math at Oakland Community College in Farmington Hills, Michigan. Today I'd like to share with you how I hear from every student. We all want to hear from our students so that we can figure out what they know and what they don't know, but we usually end up getting some guy like this in our class. If you're not familiar with this guy, he's an iconic character from Welcome Back, Kotter. It was a show in the 70s, and his name is Arnold Horshack. He just screamed every time he knew the answer. And then, of course, you want to be called on. I haven't had exactly an Arnold Horshack in my class, but very similar, right? They dominate the conversation in the big group, and even when you break them into small groups, sometimes they take over those small groups as well. So I use two apps in particular to help me hear from everybody, even the quiet students. The first one is the AnswerPad. The AnswerPad is my go-to student response system. This is free to use for students and for instructors. You're going to go to theanswerpad.com and you're going to see this screen. Teachers enter on the left, students on the right. Teachers have an account, a sign-in, but students do not have to have that. And the reason why I say students don't have to have that is because you can use this interactive quick connect. What it will do is it will generate a code that you give to students. Then they put the code in and put their name in, and then you'll see them in your class. This particular system has the most different kinds of questions that you can ask students. You've got multiple choice, true, false. You can ask them yes, no questions. The up, down is like a thumbs up, thumbs down. Fill in. You can have them grade at 5 different levels on the Likert scale. I'll show you a drawing for sure. And you can send a URL to them. So for example, if it was a Desmos graph or a Desmos activity and you wanted them to log into after you used this, you could link to it right there, which is kind of nice. I usually show my questions on the screen, the big screen in the class. These are not going to show up on the student screens on their phones. What would happen is the student would read the question. I usually do read them out loud, and then I have the students vote. They have a T and a F, or like a true false. They would have a T and a F on their screen, and then they send it out to me and I can see what their responses are. There is a summary in the lower right-hand corner here as well, which is very convenient to do a quick check to see exactly how many of your students are confused or know what's going on. Here's my favorite part, the drawing. You can send out a grid to have students sketch a graph. And what it looks like is this when it comes back. You can zoom in a little bit so that you can see them better. I didn't even make that as big as possible. So you can get quite detailed if you want to take a quick scan down the screen to see what your students are answering. You don't get the summary, but you can eyeball it pretty quickly to see if students are on the right track. It is faster than walking around the room and looking at their papers. The last feature that I wanted to show you today of the AnswerPad was the little dots. And so basically these little dots are green, yellow, and red. And I use green to say, hey, you're good to go. You got this problem right. And red obviously is we're not doing too well. Like it looks like Ross, Phoebe, and Chandler all graphed y was equal to -3 instead of x was equal to -3. Honestly, I thought it was cheesy and students weren't going to like it in college, but they really do. Another app that I use to hear from every student is Quiz. This one's a little bit different because the questions are going to go right onto the student's phone instead of me controlling the pace. And when we're going to answer questions, students can get the whole quiz all at one time. I'm going to show you an example that I used for my AMATIC 2019 presentation. What you're going to do is have the students join the quiz with the game code. And then you can see them populate into your class. The students see on their phone what's on the right-hand side. This is the editing mode. So this is what I used to type in on the left is what I used to type in the questions. I used this example because I have a superscript, and then I showed a subscript for the log. In this question, I have the pi, which comes out very nicely, as well as the fraction. And then the last example that I used in my presentation was a graph. So you can bring in an image, which I just exported from Desmos as a PNG, and then uploaded it to Quiz. Students like this competitive feature. I think this is one of the reasons why they like Kahoot as well. Just the competitiveness of the whole thing. You can see how students do when you are finished with the activity, and you can go over any questions that maybe students didn't get correct, or if you notice that there's a trend with something that is wrong that you want to be able to address. When you go to write one of these quizzes, you're going to hit the Create button, and you name it and you put it into a class. And then these are the choices for the questions. Now, this does look a little bit different than when I did my AMATIC 2019 presentation because they've added a few features. So that's kind of exciting that they've got a few more things besides just multiple choice and multi-select. So we've got fill in the blank polls and then open-ended questions now as well. The math editor is quite robust. When you click on the F of X button, you're going to get a nice palette to be able to type the math in, and it's very easy and it looks great on the screens. Thanks for watching this teaching tips video. I hope it helps you hear from every one of your students.